If you're part of the law enforcement family, this is your show. Here we talk about all things Leo family life, the good, the bad, the funny, and the sad, and everything in between. Hi guys, I am so excited about today's guest. We have Congresswoman Kat Cammack on the show today, and I really could not be more excited. I'm like jumping out of my skin with joy over this. If you don't know who Kat Cammack is, I want you to take a look at this video, and you're going to understand pretty quickly why I'm such a fan.
Young ladies recognized for 2 minutes from the state of Florida.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak in strong opposition to the efforts by you and your colleagues to defund our police. This week, we will be voting on H.R. 1280, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This bill is named after a man who was murdered by a police officer. The officer responsible should have never been allowed to don a badge and act on behalf of the agency sworn to protect its citizens. He should and is being held accountable. Now, as a member of the first responder family, I can say definitively on behalf of our officers that there is absolutely nothing that a good cop hates more than a bad cop. And as the wife of a first responder, this issue could not be more personal to me. My husband serves our local community as a firefighter and a SWAT medic for our local sheriff's department. And next to me here today, you see one of his SWAT vests. This is the same vest that he wore for 14 hours while on a massive manhunt for a man who had just been released from prison who promptly raped and killed his girlfriend. It is the same vest that he wore while responding to a man who had barricaded himself with weapons, threatening to kill his own children. These are just some of the scenes that this vest and my husband has seen, like so many of our LEOs. But the real threat here is not the dangerous situations that my husband has seen in protecting his community. It is the fact that this bill, and by extension you, Mr. Speaker, want to take this vest off my husband's back. Because yes, what this bill does is take this kind of equipment off the backs of our men and women in uniform. I ask you, Mr. Speaker, and my colleagues who are considering voting for this bill, are you waking up at 2 a.m. going to respond to a gruesome murder? Are you missing your children's birthday parties to respond to gang shootings? There is absolutely room for us to approve. There is absolutely room and a necessity for us to do better. But the answer is not to defund the police. It is not the answer. What this bill ultimately does is defund the police. You want a better trained, more responsive police force in your hometown? Fully fund the police. You say this is a reform bill, and I say that's BS. Mr. Speaker, your own conference members have been advocating for the defunding of our local police officers, calling them names that I cannot and will not repeat here today. In fact, many of your members have made it a top priority of their platforms.
I just want to stand up and applaud all over again. So coming right up, we have Congresswoman Kat Cammack. Crime is exploding across America. Defunding the police is causing even more chaos and increased crime in communities we live, work, and raise our families. Defunding the police, ironically, requires more police officers to work overtime, which costs taxpayers more money and leads to decreased officer morale, increased burnout, and unfortunately, more mistakes. Defunding the police strips our officers of much-needed training and resources, such as de-escalation, use of force, and cultural awareness training. Furthermore, the scheme to remove less than lethal options will simply result in more fatal police shootings. We need your support to refund the police. Fight back against defunding the police. Politicians want to slash police. Tell them no. Do your part to support police. Show you care. Your donations will go towards development of a national media advertising blitz to rally Americans who are sick and tired of the attacks on law enforcement and focus on the negative impact the defund the police movement is having on our country. The establishment of a strike team of researchers and reporters. The establishment of a strike team of researchers and reporters to highlight the devastating impact of defunding the police in our communities. We will work within our communities to highlight both the positive stories of law enforcement and bring you the stories that are ignored by the mainstream media. Donate today, and together, let's refund the police. All right. So as promised, we have the U.S. Representative for Florida's 3rd Congressional District, Congresswoman Kat Cammack. Thank you for coming on today.
Hey, so good to be with you. Thank you, Elsa.
Thank you. So first off, congratulations on being the 3rd youngest Republican woman elected to Congress in this election cycle. That is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's an honor to represent young women everywhere, but also, being the youngest Republican woman in the country today and the third youngest ever in history. It's pretty wild.
Yes, this is huge. I think this is so powerful and impactful for young women out there right now wanting to get involved in politics. I have to admit, politics intimidates me. The very idea of it is intimidating to me. So to watch someone like you do this so masterfully and with, grace and strength, it is really, really inspiring. So I think you're going to spark a lot of passion in a lot of young Republican women and maybe some of us older ones too.
No, I appreciate you saying that, but I mean, heck, what you're doing right now, I mean, you're hosting a podcast. You're a much better speaker than many members of Congress already. So don't ever be intimidated by politics. And I tell people all the time, even if you feel like it isn't something that you would necessarily do, politics impacts you every single day in every aspect of your life. So it's really important that everybody gets involved and engaged in the process.
Absolutely. So true. So speaking of passion for politics, what sparked yours? Were you very young when you had this interest in politics and in making change?
It's actually a little bit of a funny but sad story. I really had no desire to go into politics for my career. I was actually in my final year of college. I was a month out from graduating, and I was going to go into the oil and gas business, take over our family business. We're commercial sandblasters and in the monument business. And I'm in my final month, and we get a phone call that we were losing our small cattle ranch. And so we ended up losing our home due to a big government program that we never signed up for. And we're homeless for several months. And it was that time being homeless and really starting to understand how this government program left not just me, but my family without a roof over our head. That's really what motivated me to get involved. I ended up talking to a family friend of mine who said, my uncle is running for Congress in Florida, and I think you'd be great. You're not married, you don't have kids. You should drive across the country and, help this guy out who hates government as much as you do. And, you're homeless, you're broke. And so at that point it was just take a huge leap of faith. And I drove across country and ended up working on a campaign, not knowing what I was doing, but just figuring it out along the way. And, at the end of the day, we ended up winning, and I ended up joining the official congressional office and was the deputy chief of staff for the last 8 years. And that's when I met my husband, Matt, who is a firefighter and a SWAT medic. And that's how it all kind of came to be. So never was in the big plan, but it all just kind of fell that way in that direction. And when my boss decided to retire after 8 years, my husband and our best friend, we sat in a barbecue joint in Gainesville, Florida, and had a heart to heart and just really come to Jesus discussion about the state of affairs for our country. And we could have all walked away from politics and said, you know what, we've done our time and in serving the district and serving the country and the community, and we're going to go off and do, anything we want, build a business, travel, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, and really the end of the conversation in this, it was actually David's barbecue. I'll never forget it. We sat there and looked at each other and said, do you really want to raise babies in a socialist nation? Are you gonna be able to look our kids in the eye years from now and tell them that mom and dad did absolutely everything that we could to protect that opportunity that we had growing up? And we kind of looked around at each other. There were some tears shed, and we just said, no, don't think that we'll be able to do that. And so we jumped all in and ran for Congress, and it was wild.
I can't even imagine, but I love, and so I want to correct myself. I asked you about a passion for politics. It's not a passion for politics. It's a passion for people and a passion for this country. And that is so relatable to me. And I love that story. That's just absolutely fantastic and really, really impactful. And I think it's people like you who maybe would be considered at least initially political outsiders, much like Trump and anyone else, and people who just truly love this country. And it's not that they love politics, but they know that they have to get involved, and the only way you can make change is if you're part of what makes the change happen. So thank you for doing that, because we need you desperately, desperately. I want to share something very quickly with you. So back in March, I was sent a video of your incredibly powerful speech in front of the House about the first responder bill. I'm sorry, for the police reform bill. And as a police spouse, I became an instant fan. I can honestly tell you, I was fangirling from that moment on. I went right to your page and followed you. And I'm not even living in Florida yet. We've got about 2 years till my husband retires. And you and Ron DeSantis are just, one of the many, many reasons I can't get there fast enough. Could you talk a little bit about what inspired? I kind of know already, but I'm going to ask anyway. Could you tell me what inspired you to be such a vocal advocate for first responders?
Absolutely. And I think that was, I knew from having been just hits their no given moment. Like they hit that level of,
Yes.
I'm not going to take this done. And it only took me 3 months. So we had been given notice that there was going to be a bill brought forward called the George Floyd Justice campaign, that I was going to read the bills, because my family lost everything and homeless because people in Washington did not read the bills. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to vote on something because. So we started digging into the legislation. It was horrific and terrifying. Everything from the stripping of support for our small and mid-sized departments to taking literal equipment off of the backs of our men and women in uniform, the advisory boards tying the accreditation, but you would have to have the NAACP and the ACLU as part of your advisory board. It was from A to Z a terrifying piece of legislation that had nothing to do with improving relations between the law enforcement community and the community that they serve. And it had nothing to do with improving the police, our police departments. It had everything to do with cutting them, gutting them, defunding them. And I don't care how many times people want to stand up and say, that wasn't what we were doing. Yes, it was. I read the bill. And I can't tell you how many people don't read the bills. And so I told my husband, because I fly back and forth from DC to Florida. And I told my husband, I'm gonna have to borrow one of your SWAT vests. And it kind of hit me. And I said, I'm gonna have to borrow it. And he's all like, okay, do what you got to do. I have no idea how you're gonna get it up there. And he has a secondary SWAT vest in case he had a call out. And so I wanted to make sure that, he had his stuff, his gear. And by the way, if you have ever tried to get a ballistic vest through TSA, it's not cute. It's not cute. No. They don't appreciate that. Lots of questions.
They were not fans of that moment, huh?
No. They were like, excuse me, ma'am, why do you have a suitcase with nothing but a ballistic vest in it? And I'm like, I'm going to Washington.
Right.
So we get up here, we get up to the office, and I had the vest sitting in, and people are coming in and out, and they're asking me, what is this vest doing in here? And I started telling them, I haven't written the speech yet, but I know in my heart what I want to say. And the process when a bill comes up like that is we get 1 or 2 hours of debate, and it's evenly split between Republicans and Democrats, and you go back and forth. So one side speaks, the other speaks, and you have someone who manages the time for you on each side. And Jim Jordan was managing the time for Republicans, and so I'm like, well, let's see what I can do. And so I'd called Jim and I said, hey, I need 3 minutes, and he's like, I'll give you 1. And I'm like, oh no, I can't give the speech that I want to give.
Right.
And keep in mind, I had been thinking a long time about what I wanted to say, but hadn't put it to paper. And then my team handed me a script, and I said, guys, you wrote a beautiful speech, but this has to come from me. I have to write it in my own words. And so I knocked it out in about 30 minutes and rewrote it, wrote it again, rewrote it, wrote it again, settled on what I was going to say. And it timed out about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And so I grabbed the vest, and it's an old school military surplus vest.
Right.
We don't have a big city that gets fancy gear every year. We have old military surplus equipment because we're a small, we're like a mid-sized town. And so that's what a lot of the departments have to rely on.
Right.
And so I hoof it down there with my speech in hand and the vest on my arm on the other. And I get down to the House floor, and Jim Jordan took one look at me, and he's like, okay, you get 2 minutes. And I remember kind of walking up to the podium where the microphone was. And I remember one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle saying some not nice things as I was like taking my seat. And everyone was looking like, what is this person doing with that vest? And so I was kind of keeping it low. And after that, I honestly, I cannot remember a thing. I think I blacked out. It was an out of body experience, because the next thing I know, I'm grabbing that vest, and I was hoping that the microphones around the table were going to pick up the boom.
Yes.
And I was like, I've got to lift this vest as high as I can and drop it as hard as I can. Of course, I'm 5'3" with little T-Rex arms, so it's like, you ain't gonna get that much.
They're heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I just need to like get that moment where everyone pays attention, because this was, to me, exceptionally personal. And so, if you've seen the video, you see me throw the vest on the table, it booms, and then I go into it. But the point that I was trying to make about not just the bill, but the law enforcement community and what's happened over the last few years, the attacks that we all, and I say we because as well as I do, as a spouse, we serve right alongside our spouse. And so I was really trying to make the point that there's a very unique group of people that make up law enforcement communities. They're the ones that miss the holidays because they're working on shift, or they've picked up a shift for a buddy who maybe it's the first Christmas with their kids that they're going to have in 3 years. Maybe it's a birthday party. I know we have picked up shifts for our brothers and sisters who are undergoing cancer treatment. There's a litany of reasons why we miss so many things, but there's things out of our control. And I can't tell you how many times Matt and I have had to wake up in the middle of the night and there's a SWAT call out because of a barricaded subject with small children who's threatening to, harm them or himself. And so the point I was trying to make was, our brothers and sisters in blue have been vilified for years, and no one has pushed back. And the bill that they were trying to pass was going to be the final nail in the coffin to fundamentally change what it meant to be a law enforcement officer, what community policing really meant. And I wanted to really make the point that if people were truly serious about safer communities and improving community relations and better training and really moving forward in a productive way, you don't divest, you invest. And so that was really the point of the whole speech. And thankfully, a lot of media outlets and folks picked it up. And I cannot tell you the outpouring of support I got from police wives and fire wives. And they were like, thank you. And I'm saying, thank you. it is truly a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood, and we have to stick together. And
Yes.
I think that there's going to be more battles to come here in the next few months. And so
Right.
that speech may have been part one.
Mhm.
We're going to fight the whole way through to make sure that we really do protect the men and women who wear the uniform. I just can't think of anything more important than the front lines in our hometowns.
Absolutely. And, and we all get the irony of what they're trying to do. The words that they say and the actions that they take are completely contradictory. You want a better police department. You want better first responders. That's what they
Yeah.
say. We need better, we need improved. So we're going to take away all of the funding to be able to do that. Makes perfect sense, right? It makes all of us just want to pull our hair out in frustration. And so many spouses, I'm one of the lucky ones that I do get to speak out. I do get to speak my mind. I've, written a book for law enforcement family, just how to navigate this crazy lifestyle in this day and time. And law enforcement today, who I work with, has got a refund the police movement going on now that, we're bringing it right to the people. And it's thanks to people like you who are really, really on the front lines of fighting this with the people who are trying to pass all of these things. So we can't do anything that we're doing without your support. And it's such a great unified front that we have when it comes to this. And you're like you said, and I completely agree that speech, I think, truly was the foundation, the building block of some amazing things that are to come from you and your colleagues who are on the same page as you. And I just can't imagine not having you there doing that for us. So I'm with all of those spouses that just applaud you. I got teary. I got emotional watching that speech. The minute you put that vest down, that boom, I was like, that's my girl right there. Love her. I was like,
this is
we're
for
friends.
all
She doesn't
my
know
police
it,
and
but we're
fire
friends.
wives.
She just doesn't know it. Oh, okay. So you're giving me so much of your time here, and I'm so grateful. The last thing I want to ask you is there anything that you would like to say to the first responder family as we continue through these just unprecedented times of anti-police rhetoric? What would you say to our blue family?
Gosh, how much time do we have?
As much as you want.
I think there's so much that I could say, but at the end of the day, if there's one takeaway that folks have watching and listening to this, it's that we have got your back. We have got your six. And more than ever, we need to be united. We need to lock arms and really support each other. And I see so much anger. I see so much pain, so much frustration within the profession. And I've told some of my colleagues before, you don't recognize the difficult conversations that are being had at the kitchen table. You
Right.
don't understand that there is a real serious problem right now in that we already have a natural fear of, when they leave in the morning, are they going to make it back through that door at the end of the day? At the end of the shift, be it a 12-hour shift or a 24-hour shift, are they making it back through that door? There's a lot of things out there that already are against our folks. So you couple that with the defund police movement, these social justice warriors who have been emboldened to act out violently against the very people who are sworn to defend and protect and uphold the law in our communities. And it can be very, very challenging. I know Matt and I personally, we've had that conversation of maybe you shouldn't be on the SWAT team. I don't know if I want you going out there. People have absolutely lost their damn minds.
Yeah.
And, I know, talking to a lot of our friends, they've had similar conversations of maybe it's time to retire. Maybe it's time to look at something different. And that's reflected in not just the conversations we have as wives with our husbands who serve, but look at the data. You
Right.
see across the country, it's not just the retention of our officers, but the recruitment is down significantly. And so
Mass exodus and low recruitment. Yeah.
yeah, and then you couple that issue with some of these really ridiculous mandates that are coming down in the city of Gainesville. The city mandated vaccinations for all city employees, and that was fire, police, and the linemen. And this is not a testament to anti or pro vaccine. I am not anti-vaccine at all.
Right.
I just am firmly anti-mandate. I believe the government has no right to tell an individual what they have to do with regard to their personal health. That is a conversation for you, your family, your doctor. No city official, government official should make that decision for you. And so in the city of Gainesville, we just had a lawsuit where the city was going to terminate 200 police and fire and linemen, 200, where
It's
we were
insane.
already, yeah, it's incredible. Just yesterday, the court ruled in our favor that the city cannot do that. And so I think little things like that, there's little rays of hope where we see some sanity being returned to the conversation. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, if there's one thing to take away, it's that you're not alone. You are not alone. And there's a wide range of emotions that come with being a wife, a blue wife, a fire wife. It is not an easy thing. And I recognize, and I know a lot of my colleagues recognize the service that the spouses give right alongside and serving. So I just want folks to know that people do have y'all's backs, and that there is a thin blue line army that grows by the day in Washington, but also across the country. So don't ever give up faith. Don't ever give up on the idea that we are here to serve. We will continue to serve. And no matter the adversity and challenges we face, we will overcome.
That is the best message you could possibly give. I know the community is starving to hear that. You know, it's like you said, the where of this shows in the everyday lives, in the overall climate of law enforcement and first responding. They are tired, they're hurt, they're angry, and their hands are tied. So there's nothing that they can say or do about it. And you know, like you said, with the mandates now, get the mandate or risk termination. You know, all the services, it's just an added insult to injury. It's another slap in the face that, you know, we sacrifice so much, our families sacrifice so much for our communities, and this is how we get thanked. You slap and it's got to be an unconstitutional mandate on us to put something in our bodies, you know, against our will. And I thank you for fighting on that front too. And I mean, I guess legislatively or legally, I guess that's the only thing we can do. It sounds like we're going to have massive amounts of lawsuits coming up, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, you know, we're fighting this not only in the court system, but legislatively and through the administrative agency path. You know, we're gonna fight it on all fronts. And I tell people all the time, it's easy to lose hope and faith in today's climate. You turn on the news and it's very easy to become depressed in about 10 minutes.
Yes.
But again, I go to, you are seeing a new generation of leadership, people who've just, you know, stood up and said, I'm not taking this anymore. And I won't leave a country for my kids that is based on equal outcome. We are the United States of America. We are based on equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And we will 100% stand with all of those who are incredible patriots who fight for our country every single day, be it overseas, at our border, or in our hometowns. And that is something that I think we need to lock arms around and say, we've had enough, we're standing up, we're taking our country back.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. My admiration for you has I didn't even know it could grow more, but it has. And I will.
Oh, stop it. Okay, keep going.
Oh, stop it. Go on. Oh, I am so excited to watch your journey here, and I think you're just going to keep accomplishing great things for our law enforcement, our Blue family, our first responders, for all of us, and for the country as a whole. So thank you so much for not only this interview, but for, of course, doing everything that you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I tell people all the time, stay in touch with us, send us messages. Being a millennial, I read all the stuff on social media. I read the Facebook comments, the Instagram DMs. I read all of it. And I can't tell you how encouraging it is when I get messages from my fellow first responder family. And I love it. So always stay in touch. And if you need anything, call us.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you again. It was great talking with you, and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Elsa. I appreciate it.